Well, let's try and return to Eric Lisann. We are talking about controversy surrounding the resignation of several senior prosecutors after the US Justice Department moved to drop corruption charges against the Mayor of New York. Eric Lisann, former federal and state prosecutor, is with us now. Eric, I hope you can hear me okay. This case is going to be heard in court on Wednesday. The judge will decide whether or not these corruption charges will be dropped. If the judge decides not to dismiss them, what exactly happens then?
Well, that's a very complicated question because the situation is unprecedented. The closest example we have to it is in Trump's first term as president, when Bill Barr, then the Attorney General, seemingly on the orders of Trump, tried to withdraw the case against the former General Michael Flynn. And that judge did order an investigation. He appointed a sort of a special investigator who was a retired former judge himself to act on part of the court and conduct an inquiry. And that probably is going to be similar to what this judge does here. Ultimately, the judge has seemingly limited powers because he can't order the Department of Justice, as far as we know, it's never been done, to conduct a prosecution if they refuse to do it. However, he can hold officials in contempt, and he can clarify what the true circumstances are, whether he believes the reasons given by the Department of Justice are accurate or pretextual or not. He can even mandate that the dismissal be with prejudice rather than without prejudice, which would remove this sort of Damocles that is hanging over the head right now of the New York City mayor.
And Eric, critics say this controversy is just the latest example of the Trump administration prioritizing political aims over criminal culpability. The mayor obviously hasn't been convicted of anything, but what kind of message does all of this send?
Well, it sends a very disturbing message, obviously, and that's why so many prosecutors have resigned rather than go forward with this directive from the Attorney General or the acting Deputy Attorney General, who was Trump's personal attorney in his criminal trial in New York State, where he was convicted of 34 felonies. Because the actual written letter of resignation from the prior U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, which is where Manhattan is, the federal district, clearly explained and detailed how this was a quid pro quo. In other words, a corrupt bargain where in exchange for temporarily withholding the prosecution and dropping the charges, the New York City mayor would agree to go along with Trump's immigration policies, which are themselves controversial and perhaps not in accordance with the wishes or best interests of the city of New York itself. So this is something that is completely improper under existing case law. And if what the former U.S. attorney for New York has alleged is true and has described, it would be, as Congressman Raskin and others have said, a classic corrupt bargain, and it would indicate the true weaponization of the Department of Justice in a very stark manner.
And the American Bar Association, it's among those urging lawmakers to insist on adherence to the rule of law, but will they when the president himself appears to be testing the boundaries of executive power?
Right. This is a situation, again, that we've never had before, where the president himself seems to be openly directing this kind of weaponization of the department, all while denying it, all while claiming it was his predecessor that weaponized the department, and insisting and having his recently confirmed nominee, Pam Bondi, for Attorney General, also insist the same thing, that there will be no weaponization while this seeming weaponization is going on. It's being called out by the American Bar Association. It's being called out by several senators, several members of the House of Representatives, by these resignations of former officials in the Department of Justice, but that hasn't changed the behavior. So what will probably come down to now is what the findings are, if there is a full inquiry by Judge Dale Ho in New York, and people will have to decide whether those findings are credible, and will have to hold Trump accountable to following the dictates in that order.
Mountain calls also for the mayor to resign. Eric, thank you so much for joining us. Unfortunately, We've run out of time, so we'll have to leave it there for now. That is lawyer and law professor Eric Lisann, a former federal and state prosecutor. Well, that is it from us for now. Do stay